Golden Black Live. Isn't technology a good thing? We got Gerry DiNardo's nice mug up there. He's smiling. I don't know you. I've been in your presence, but I've never had a chance to talk to you face to face. But this is, and I know you and Tom worked together for a period of time. But I always appreciate your good, positive attitude in this crazy time. Did you ever think? I know the answer. You never thought we were going to deal with something quite like this. But how have you personally held up during this COVID-19 crisis and your family, et cetera?
Well, thanks for having us, Alan. Good to be with you as well, Tom. Fine. You know, my daughter and my grandkids are in Indianapolis, and they're doing well. The two grandkids are in school, which we didn't know if that was going to happen. And Terry and I are down in Florida. We're really careful. We're proud mask wearers and social distances. But we've done well. We're in a little bit of a bubble here. We get some people coming in and out, but we have our group of friends that have all stayed healthy. So we have found a way to enjoy life. And I would say our lives haven't changed really all that much since COVID's hit. And we feel pretty fortunate to be able to say that.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, Gerry, did you ever think, I know we've talked a few times the last few months, was there a point in time, a low point for you, and you thought this just isn't going to happen for the Big Ten this year? And then we saw them consider the winter and spring season. And then all of a sudden, we're going to get a fall season. I mean, just go to share your feelings and maybe your mindset and your emotional, roller coaster during the last couple months here.
Tom, I didn't think we were going to play. I was convinced that it was going to be too hard to pull this off. And then, the narrative became, if there's no fans in the stands because it's too risky, then how can we have people on the field? And I said, okay, if they're thinking that way, I don't see how this is going to get done. And then the 10-game Big Ten schedule came out, and there was a glimmer of hope. I thought it was a great schedule. There was flexibilities both in the beginning and the end. And then, I don't know if it was 6, 7, or 8 days later, we canceled Big Ten football. And in my mind, I didn't think it was going to come back. And so we've seen the other conferences manage it pretty well so far. I think ACC and the Big 12, I think they've done a lot of good things. And I'm guessing, Tom and Alan, that the Big Ten is watching them very closely and have had conversations with them to see what's worked and hasn't worked. So I feel fortunate that we're playing, Tom. I have to admit, I didn't think anybody was going to play maybe sometime in July. And so I'm glad it's kind of worked out. I don't think we'll have 9 weeks of uninterrupted Big Ten football, though. I think we'll have some speed bumps.
And your data set, or you're going to get a whole other data set because the SEC begins this weekend. And of course, you've had extensive experience coaching at LSU and very familiar with that. A little bit different attitude by it appears from the SEC, as you know, we are moving forward, and this is a part of the country where it seems to be that's kind of the way it's going to be done. Anything more to be learned from that? Is it just survive, literally weekly survive and advance and hope you get games in? I mean, how do you look at it from that perspective?
Yeah, I would put the SEC in with the Big 12 and the ACC. I mean, I think we're going to watch and learn because they're going to be 3 or 4 weeks ahead of us. I don't anticipate the SEC will have continual play either. I think we're all going to have interruptions in our schedule. I'm a little taken back that there was not going to be any fans. Only in the pro situations would the rule be okay. No fans, no game. And now the Big Ten's not going to have any fans, but the SEC's going to have any fans. Is going to have some fans. Notre Dame has had some, and they're playing in the ACC. So, Alan, I don't know if there's ever an expression day by day that was appropriate. I think we're living day by day.
Hey, Gerry, what do you think of the idea being floated, and I guess it's going to get voted on here, having no win threshold to go to bowl games? Gerry, you could have an 0-8 team get picked for a bowl game. What are your feelings about that?
I think in an unusual season, Tom, let's see what happens. I don't think there's going to be an 0-8 team, but you use that as an example to make a point. why not? Why not get to the end of the season and see? And if there's a team under 500, maybe they had their quarterback out because he tested positive. I mean, I think anything and everything, Tom, should be on the table. And so nothing's normal, so why would we think bowl invitations will be normal?
Yeah. Rondale Moore, that little guy, number 4, made a big decision from a Purdue perspective and from a college football perspective that he was coming back. That may change the face of what you see out of Purdue. But tell me about your thoughts not only on Rondale coming back, but what Jeff Brom's squad may bring to the table as we look at this 2020 season.
Yeah, Alan, I think there's a lot of layers to Rondale coming back. I mean, you've mentioned it. I mean, this is a great player coming back to a team and a program that's being built by Jeff Brom. You two know that team much better than I do, so I'm not going to get into personnel with you. But Alan, here's my point about it being layered with Rondale Moore. I am in favor of a college athlete, a college football player, rather, leaving any time. I don't believe that the NFL rule of 3 years after you leave high school is fair. So what we were watching with Rondale and all the other Big Ten players and all the players around the country that were opting out, what were we seeing? We were seeing the experts say he's a first-round draft pick. He's a second-round draft pick. We didn't hear anybody say, oh, he's too young. He can't make it in the NFL. So before all these guys opted back in, what I thought was going to unfold is we were going to see all the best players in the Big Ten and everywhere else around the country that were not going to play what was going to be their 3rd year, and yet they were still going to be first-round draft picks. And I felt like the new normal when we came out of this situation was that we very well see, not with any virus part of our lives, I thought if the NFL didn't change the rule, we were going to see guys opt out of their junior year, just go to school or just go with their trainers and train for the draft. So I think it's really, really interesting that all these guys decided to come back. I still would like to see the rule changed, but Rondale certainly is going to make a difference at Purdue and in the Big Ten.
Yeah, be a lot of fun to watch.
And Gerry, going back to the tumult of July and August, boy, the Big Ten was just had a lot of infighting. You had parents protesting up in Rosemont. You had players suing the conference. You had players sniping at the league over coaches sniping at the league over social media. I mean, what were you thinking back then? And Gerry, I know I talked to you a few times. And what were you thinking when you heard Nebraska making noise about going rogue and playing games by itself if the Big Ten wasn't going to play?
Yeah, I thought that was really the only line that was crossed, Tom. I didn't think that was realistic. I thought it was really an idle threat. I didn't think that would ever happen. The rest of the things you mentioned, I just think it's emotions. I just think people have a right to do that. I think what the good that's going to come out of this, I think is, I don't ever think you'll hear the presidents voting other than unanimous, okay? They may vote differently behind closed doors, but as we go forward and as we've looked at our past, there's never been a major decision in the Big Ten that hasn't been unanimous. That doesn't mean that everybody was on board. It's just that everybody agreed that the majority was going to rule and we were going to back everybody. You're fighting about what to call on 3rd and 2 in the staff room when you got 5 guys on your offensive staff, and you decide on the first play to be called. Not everybody is going to agree with that play call, but everyone's going to support that play call and coach that play call during practice like the game depended on it, even though they would have called another play. And so to me, Kevin Warren's a new commissioner. I imagine the learning curve. I mean, people ask me, someone asked me to grade him. You know what I gave him for a grade? Bad timing, okay? Certainly not a letter, certainly not a number, but I think, there's some new presidents and chancellors, there's a new commissioner. I think everyone has had a learning experience about this, and I'd expect any decision coming out of the Big Ten Conference from here on is going to be unanimous.
Hey, Gerry, real quick, because I love hypotheticals. What if Jim Delaney had to walk through all this instead of Kevin Warren? Would things have been much different?
Well, things would have been different, certainly. Much different, hard to tell. It would have been unanimous. There would have never been any talk about 11-3. There would have never been any talk that there was a vote. Just a different management style. Probably not a good time to share some stories, but some of the stories when Jim was 35 years old and went from the OVC to the Big Ten and was dealing with the likes of Bob Knight and Bo Schembecker, and he had some really rough starts in meetings with those people, and it turned out okay.
That's a good point, because I think it's hard to lay it all. Kevin Warren is a circumstance. We live in life with that sometimes. We can't control it, and you have to hope that for his longevity that it's going to smooth out at some point in time. It's crazy from that standpoint. Looking at at the league, and obviously Ohio State is the team that everybody talks about, but certainly Penn State, Michigan, they're in there. Wisconsin could be, but is it those, and is it hard? Is this virus also make it really hard to predict what the heck you're really going to see week in, week out?
Yeah, but you know what, Alan? One thing's going to remain the same. The coaches that do the best job adjusting, the coaches that do the best job saying to your team, when you're not in the facility, here's how you should act, right? I mean, we always have those conversations with our team. Thursday night's a party night on college campuses. Yeah. And the best coaches convince their team that everyone else might be out Thursday night in the bars and having fun, and we don't have practice on Friday, or it's just a walkthrough on Friday. But I can tell you this, what you do on Thursday night is going to impact you on Saturday, physically. There's no doubt about that. So we've always had to manage the behavior of our team. So the coaches that are preaching the mask, that are preaching social distancing, the ones that are preaching what to do socially, that's an adjustment. The ones that are cross-training, if you're an offensive lineman, think about this, the NFL has eight offensive linemen. If you're on the NFL roster and you're number 6, 7, and 8, you know every position. That's survival in the NFL. Most college teams are 3 deep scholarship-wise. They have 15 offensive linemen. What coach has best trained a center to be a guard to be a tackle, a right tackle to be a left tackle? What coach has closed the gap? All the time you spend on special teams during camp, what coach has done the best job closing that gap? Who wants to beat up their team tackling and blocking? So what coach has done the best job in integrating blocking and tackling into their practices, but not beating their team up? So coaches managing their team, making the best adjustments has always been the quality of the best coaches. And I think you'll see the coaches that are managing COVID the best will have the best seasons.
Hey, Gerry, Big Ten, you talked about the schedule they hatched. Very unique part of that schedule is that week 9, where every team is going to be in action, aside from the title game. I mean, give us your thoughts on that idea. To me, it's very intriguing and exciting. Plus, I guess there's a chance some of these games could be played at other neutral dome sites within the Big Ten footprint.
I love it, Tom. I'm with you. I think it's totally cool. I think it gives everybody a chance to win something. I mean, obviously everyone wants to be in the championship game, but who wants to be 3rd or 4th, right? I mean, and then you can go right down the line. The only thing, I've said this several times since the announcement, Barry Alvarez, who chaired that committee, schedule committee, he made mention on the announcement that if there was a rematch, they may reorganize it and rethink it. I love rematches. I was part of a rematch when I was at LSU. It was actually against Notre Dame. And it was a blast. Now, I mentioned this to Urban Meyer the other day. He said, I don't like it if you won the first one. Well, that's what happened to me. Notre Dame beat us in Baton Rouge, and we played them in a bowl game, and the motivation was on our side. So I think it's a great challenge for a team to beat another team twice, because the odds are against it. And I think I love revenge. I know every coach in America says revenge isn't a motive. Unless they're in the staff room, or unless they're home, or unless they're talking to their friends. For some reason, culturally, we're not supposed to admit that revenge is a motive. Revenge is a motive for me. So I love the idea of a rematch.
Yeah, I love that comment, because that's right. It's like when people say it's not about the money. What is it?
It's about the amount of money. Not about the money, it's about the amount of money.
And there's a lot to be said about that with respect to, as you've watched some sports since this has begun, the idea of no fans makes for a different experience, does it make it different for the coaches in terms of building a team up emotionally as they head into a game? I mean, or you just throw that all out and say, we're focusing on what we have in front of us?
I don't think that it matters in most games, Alan. I think it matters in some. I've been at a place that had really passionate fans, and I've been at two places that didn't fill their stadium. So I come from this on both sides. You look at the whiteout at Penn State. The whiteout is usually from Michigan or Ohio State. I think that makes a difference. I mean, Ohio State goes to Penn State this year without a whiteout. That helps Ohio State. Most weeks, I don't think it really matters. It doesn't look like it has on the sidelines, just watching it. And I mentioned this earlier, Alan. I am a little put off that when we were talking about this months ago, that the narrative by a lot of administrators were saying no fans, no team. And now it's no fans and team. And what changed? If it's not safe for a fan to be socially distanced in a stadium, why is it safe for me to block and tackle you? Yeah. Okay. Now, I think one obvious answer is, well, we're testing the people that are playing. We're not testing the fans. So I'm a little undecided about how I feel about that whole thing. But to answer your question, I don't think it matters every game. I think it matters in certain games, in certain situations.
Tom, we got time for one more. Fire away, my friend.
Well, Jay, before you go, you were an All-American guard at Notre Dame, 1972 to 74. Played on a national championship team in 1973. I don't know if I ever got to ask you this, Jerry. Did you ever have to block Dave Butts or Ken Novak, and how did you do?
Butts, not too good. You could say Butts kicked my butt. As I remember, I was a sophomore starting. We were ineligible as freshmen. And I remember Butts being an older player, and he was lined up on me. And I don't remember it being anything more than a humbling and a learning experience. That's of the two guys. That's who I remember the most. But I'll have to go back and check. I hope I'm.
Yeah, I think you're right, because Butts' last year was 72. I remember the game you would have played in Ross-Ade Stadium would have been 73, and Art Best ran one of the first sets of plays of the game for a long touchdown in what ended up being a pretty close game. But you've had your experience of playing in Ross-Ade Stadium, Purdue, Notre Dame.
Right.
Eventually, we'll get back to playing. I think it's next year, right? In theory, 21, they're back on the field together. So
we only lost 5 games when I was there, and 2 of them to Southern Cal. Purdue was one of them. Missouri was one of them, and Nebraska was one of them. So Purdue really hurt my perfect Big Ten record 3 years in a row.
That 74 game, that's right. And that was a shocker, to say the least.
Alex Agassi, 24 points in the first quarter. We're going to ask you about that, what you had to be thinking when looking up that scoreboard. You're down 24-0. What were you? All right, we're going to say it's the internet. What were you thinking? I got to tell you, I don't remember exactly what I was thinking, but Alex worked for Eric Precision, who I was playing for. Man, it didn't sit well with the old coach now. Have the student beat him. That was a problem. And, Alex with that big old cigar,
Yeah.
Alex could enjoy a victory. Let's put it that way.
That he could. He had a couple of good ones. He beat Michigan in 76 also, and that was very much the case. Hey, what a pleasure to have you on. We really appreciate your time. We look forward to your work on the BTN. It won't be long, and you'll be up in Chicago as that goes. You said you're going to start shows, your first set of shows the week of October 24th?
Yeah, I think that's when I start. I think the network's starting the week before. I'm not even really sure, but a week or two, we're going to start getting on a regular schedule before the first game.
All right, we'll look forward to your work. Thanks so much for your time, and want to thank our sponsors also, XXX. on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. And also Hilton Garden Inn when tomorrow's a big day, State HDI tonight, and State Farm agent Trent Johnson at TrentIsMyAgent.com. I want to thank Gordon and everybody back at Gordon and Scott at WLFI for all their help. Tom and Brian for being on the show, along with Gerry DiNardo and Dave Shondell. We'll look forward to more next week on Golden Black Live. Coach, be healthy and safe, and best to your family, and we'll look forward to having you on again. And great to be talking football again.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks everybody for watching. So much appreciated.